A couple days ago, we got some casting decisions for the upcoming Harry Potter series that were finally confirmed. And for the most part, people were okay with the choices that were made. But the decision to race swap Snape caused quite a stir online. And I think the biggest reason why people are critical over this choice is because when they set out to make this series, they're saying that they're adapting it into a series because it gives them more time to flesh things out and actually include all the stuff in the books that were left out of the movies. And I think that's a fine goal. But when you're saying that you're setting out to try to do a faithful adaptation of the books, and then right out at the gate, you do a race swap character like this, that kind of gets you off on the wrong foot because it suggests that you're not actually as concerned about being faithful as what you initially claimed that you're trying to be. Now, maybe it's possible that he actually works out in the role. I even said when it comes to House of the Dragon, I was critical over the decisions to race swap the House Valerian for that. But I think it worked in the context of the show, and I really didn't have a problem with it as I started watching it. So maybe it'll be the same thing when it comes to this. But it really does feel like they're just trying to virtue signal by doing a race swap casting for a very prominent character in the series. And the irony about all this is when you're trying to virtue signal in these sort of situations, the people that you're kind of virtue signaling to would be people who otherwise wouldn't be interested in watching the Harry Potter series because JK Rowling is still attached to it. I found this article from the Mary Sue talking about those choices. The Harry Potter series has some great casting if they could only rid the series of JK Rowling. Now, this is kind of what I expected because even though J.K. Rowling agrees with these people on 99% of issues because she deviates on the trans issue, well, suddenly she is the worst person imaginable and they try to equate her to Voldemort and other things like that, which is fine. I mean, they're allowed to have their opinion, but I thought reading this headline that they were going to be fine with the casting of Papa Isiedu as Snape and be critical over some of the other casting decisions and still critical over J.K. Rowling. But that's actually not the case. Here, let's just take a look at what they have to say about it. Casting is underway for the new Harry Potter series that Warner Brothers is moving forward with. If only J.K. Rowling's name was not continually attached to it. The next paragraph just goes into the people that they actually did announce casting decisions for. There had been rumors about Lithgow, Frost, and Isiedu casting, but Matir was news to me, and I'm not mad about all of these choices. In particular, the casting of Frost as Hagrid has me very excited because I love him as an actor. He'll make a great lovable giant who is there for Harry and his friends when no one else is. I actually agree with him on that one. I think he's a good choice for Hagrid. Some of the casting could work, but I don't trust this show. I have strong feelings on Severus Snape. Now, this is the thing that kind of caught me off guard because this is where they're getting more critical over Snape, but it's for reasons that I have heard other people bring up about it, but it's just kind of funny because, like I said, the attempt or race swapping Snape comes across as an attempt to virtue signal, and you can see from this article that that's really not working out. But one thing is undeniable. That man in the books is wizard racist and a misogynist. He quite literally is disgusted by Hermione because she is a mudblood. And he said the same thing about Lily Evans, a woman he supposedly loved. So the implications of them casting Papa Isedu as Snape are messy at best. And that's the funniest part about all this is it's not that they're upset with having a race swap character. They're upset that the wrong character was race swapped because Snape has his flaws, and to me, that actually makes him one of the more interesting characters in the entire series. Even the first book, when I was reading the first book, I thought that he was my favorite character in the book, just the way he was portrayed in that. It's like, yes, he's not necessarily a nice person, but maybe I just kind of found him a little bit more relatable or something like that. I don't know, because I was more of a loner when I was a little kid, but still, I just thought it was, I thought he was more of an interesting character, and he is someone that I would actually say goes on to be one of the heroes of the series. But yes, he does have his own personal flaws and own personal demons. He's a well-rounded character, a complex character, and that's what's so good about him. But they don't want to give that to a black person. They think a black person should just be, I don't know, just pure good, because if there's any faults in him whatsoever, then they think that, I don't know, they attribute that to faults in the entire black race, or at least that's kind of the implications that they have in this article. I don't know, that's what they're suggesting, but that's what I'm taking away from this, at least. Many have pointed this out. Snape as a character is not a hero. I would disagree with them on that one. And if anything, he often used his status as a loner white man to harm others. Did he actually do that? Did he do mean things to other people because he would like say like I'm invoking my status as a loner white man to get away with this or to do this? It's like no, that was just his character. I mean, he had a chip on his shoulder. A lot of it came from his own personal insecurities and things like that. Just kind of the way he was brought up. Like I said, he was a complex character, but I don't think any of his faults can be attributed to the fact that he was white, because there's a lot of other good people in the series that were also white as well. And there was also bad people in the series who are white as well. So basically race is a non-factor here. So casting Asiatu does, in my mind, require a lot of changes that the show needs to do for him to work as a character. And that's the biggest problem, I think, with this casting decision right there is, like I was saying at the start, you can make it work if they're just doing a race swap, but everything else is otherwise the exact same. There's no other implications about the racial dynamic, because I know that's something a lot of people have brought up with Harry Potter's father, James Potter, and his friends, the Marauders, when they were bullying Snape when they were kids and stuff like that, because basically Snape was kind of like the nerdy kid in school, and Harry Potter's father, James, was on the Quidditch team. So he was the jock. And that's basically the whole dynamic, is you have the jock bullying the nerd. I mean, that's fairly typical for any type of school environment or media that's focusing on a school environment. And a lot of people had that similar experience growing up. It wasn't about race, but if you're going to do a race swap character, then some people are saying like, is that going to be the angle they're going for now? Or the Marauders are a bunch of racists or something like that? I would hope that they're not going to try to go down that route and just kept things as close to the original story as possible. But they're saying in order to make the casting decision work, not only do they have to kind of go down more of the racial route to these sort of things, but also remove a lot of the stuff around Snape's character that I think makes him a more interesting and compelling character. Requires a lot of changes to the show to make it work as a character. Snape quite literally abuses a child because said child's mother did not want to be with him. That's got a white man written all over it. Actually, he was angry with Harry because Harry reminded him of James Potter. You can even see in the movies, at least, and the way he's described in the books, that there's a lot of similarities in a look. But one of the things about Snape is he still understood that Harry's eyes reminded him of his mother's eyes because they had the same eye color, at least in the books. That's how it was described as. But as far as Harry, though, just his whole demeanor and his look, he looked like James Potter. And that's why Snape didn't like him, because he even says that numerous times that he's like his father. And that's what he doesn't like about him. It's not because Harry's mother rejected him. In fact, even at the very end, he was saying that he loved his mother pretty much until he died. I mean, that's Snape is. So it's not that he's scornful over Harry because his mother rejected Snape. This article comes across as someone who doesn't actually understand the source material, or they're just projecting onto it. And I don't get this whole point. Like, that's got a white man written all over it. It's like, where does that come from there? Or white people can routinely upset about someone because their mother rejected them or something like that? Leave a comment below if that is actually a trope or something like that, or did I miss something here? A black man is seemingly harassing a young white boy because he loved his white mom and jealous of his white dad. Yeah, this is going to go great. Now, I wasn't thinking that's the angle that they were going to go at, why there's going to be criticism over this, but apparently some people think that's going to be the case. But that is something that a lot of people have brought up, though, and I have seen some people talk about it when it was announced that he's going to be cast as Snape, because it's like, well, if you're going to race swap it, then there might be more racial implications to some of the things going on. I did see some people say like, well, that means in the first few books, every time something bad goes on at Hogwarts, Harry's always accusing Snape or thinks it's Snape doing it. So is that going to be the case in the show, where it's like, yeah, every time something bad goes on for the first the first few seasons, Harry's always just going to blame the black guy for it, which I don't think that was necessarily what they were thinking about when they made this casting decisions. but it's something that audiences will think about. And that's just the biggest problem with all this, is the casting decision comes across as them not thinking. If it was just, we're going to do race blind casting, we'll just cast whoever fits the role or something like that, and they thought he was best for the role, then fine if you kept everything else. But now some people are going to see implications and read into certain stuff that isn't necessarily there. And that can be kind of a bad thing when it comes to stuff like this, unless they're trying to do something intentional. But even then that's also a bad thing, because then that means you have to deviate from the source material. So either way, with these decisions, you're not going to make people happy with it. There are characters that the casting could have made a statement with if done the right way, and I don't think you should make a statement with casting. You should just cast the best person for the role. Instead, casting Asiatu as Snape leaves more questions about what they'll do with the character than general excitement out of the gate, especially given Snape's more devious parts. So, like his kind of says, like if they would have race swapped anyone else, I think they would have been happy at the Mary Sue. If they would have race swapped Harry, clearly I doubt they're going to do that. I don't know if they're going to race swap Ron or Hermione. I don't think they should. If they race swapped Hermione, it would give a whole other connotation to the term mudblood. If they race swapped Ron, then a lot of people will say like, oh, because he's from a poor family, you had to make him black. I think what the showrunners for this were doing, or they're wanting to race swap someone. They're like, okay, it needs to be a prominent character. So who can we do a race swap for? And I think this is just the decision they came up with, thinking that there'll be less of an impact on everything else. Especially, like I said, I think he was a really good character. So like, we're going to give one of the best characters to a black person for this. And now people are going to complain about it. But as I said at the start of this video, that I think it's ultimately a futile attempt, because the people that you're going to hope to appease with a virtue signal are not going to be happy regardless of what you do. So the best thing that you should do is just try to look to appease the fan base. We've seen time and time again, that's usually a recipe for success if you try to appease the fan base. When you start looking at your franchise as a soapbox to preach your own message or to virtue signal, that's when you start getting into trouble. And if they do try to go down that route, I don't know if they're going to actually finish the whole series. But like I said, if they do otherwise maintain faithfulness to the source material, then it could work. We'll just have to wait and see. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.